One of the problems that I have had as an ME-CFS patient has been severe insomnia. And by that, I don't just mean having difficulty sleeping, I actually mean having nights where I do not sleep at all, not one wink. Now, those nights are so acute in terms of suffering, so traumatic, that they have actually been etched into my brain as traumatic memories, and I've developed quite a lot of fears around the nighttime as a result. In this video I'm going to talk more about those, but also I'm going to talk about various things that have helped me to improve my sleep and what I also do from a more mental perspective in order to overcome the anxieties that I have related to this problem. But first, my name is Patrick Usher. I am author of the book Understanding ME-CFS and Strategies for Healing, in which I distill some of the latest, most exciting breakthrough research for ME-CFS and long COVID, and also talk about various treatment strategies that I have tried in order to improve. The links for that book are down below. Now, before I developed ME-CFS, I never really had any problems with insomnia. I might have the occasional night where it took me a little bit of time to get to sleep, but basically I didn't really know that it could be that much of a problem, and I was always baffled by people who suffered from this issue. However, once I became ill, that all changed, and I started to develop difficulty sleeping. Now, this was not because I had a racing mind or I was stressed or whatever. It was because the symptoms were so difficult that they prevented my body from sleeping. And in particular, on the nights where I had overdone it during the daytime, I found that it would be much harder to fall asleep, or the sleep would be broken, or I'd wake up for several hours in the middle of the night before then tailing off for some broken sleep at the end. And so in this way, it seemed to me that the night keeps the score for what you do during the day. This has been a consistent pattern I've observed. If you overdo it during the day, at night I find the symptoms come out to annoy you. Now initially this was happening every now and again, and it would be unpleasant. It might take me until 3 a.m. to sleep, but I would actually sleep. However, around 4.5 years ago, in the summer of 2020, my life entered into a personal hell for about 6 months, over which time I suffered from extreme thirst and low blood sodium levels. And this period is something that I've talked about in more detail elsewhere, so I won't go into it here. But suffice to say that I had such severe symptoms, particularly at night, which prevented me from sleeping on around 12 occasions. And by that I mean no sleep. And the worst of those was a 4-night period in which for 3 of the nights I did not get any sleep. So this was very severe, and actually I thought I was on the way out at those times, that I was so ill that I was dying. That period ended in hospitalization with life-threatening low blood sodium levels. It's a long story, I'm not going into it here, but I managed to work out why I was suffering from such extreme thirst, and by treating that, I massively improved my nighttime symptoms. Since that time, which is now just over 4 years ago, have slept much better overall. But I've still had around 8 nights where I have no sleep at all. So the last such night was around 6 months ago, and the night before that was 10 months prior. So it's much less frequent now, but it's still something that can happen, and I can still have difficult nights where I'm waiting quite a while for sleep, although in general, unless I've been done far too much, my sleep is pretty good these days. So I have improved, and so for people who are struggling with terrible insomnia, I want to say that it is possible to actually get to a situation where it's much better. And 90% of the time now, my sleep is pretty good. I fall asleep easily, and I sleep through the night. I'm going to talk about the things that I have found helpful for sleep in a moment. I just want to say that because of how difficult these symptoms were in the past, I have developed some kind of, I don't know what one might call it, but sleep PTSD or nighttime PTSD, because of all the health symptoms I've ever experienced, total insomnia is the greatest hell, and it's awful at the time. You know, you're just, the symptoms are going wild. The nervous system, I find, goes crazy. You're getting your heart thumping in your chest. You know, it's so impossible to just let go into sleep because the body is under such stress. and then the sleep doesn't come, and then you have this whole next day where you feel really ill and you have to get through it and hope that the same thing doesn't happen again 2 nights in a row. And because of that, those kind of traumatic experiences over the course of the illness, my anxious brain has sort of latched on to the nighttime as a time that is, to be concerned about. So I've developed fears around whether I'm going to sleep or not. Very ironically, I've also developed fears even around sleeping. So even the fact of sleeping can make me nervous, which is a real catch-22. But the actual act of going into unconsciousness, what kind of dreams am I going to be plagued with or whatever. So this is just how the anxious brain works. So I have some kind of sense of humour about it, but it produces what-if thoughts in relation to anything that is decided is worth being fearful about. However, these things have gone down, and the number one thing that I try and do, really in relation to any anxiety, is to remember what is normal. So I will, if I'm getting these kind of thoughts, I will try to engage in something else, reading a book, doing some work, watching a film, just to actually divert these anxious pathways in my brain and teach my brain that it doesn't actually have to go down that road. And I find that if I do that consistently, basically I start forgetting these anxieties or whatever anxieties, and I get much calmer. Because ultimately, when you're well, you never think about sleep. I mean, it's just something that you have to do. Life, when you're well, is just the part where you're awake, right? It's just you doing life, and you just never really think about sleep because it's just whatever you have to do until you continue with life the next day. So I just try to divert my attention away from these kinds of thoughts. But, they are there because these symptoms were very significant, and initially, as I say, they were coinciding with episodes of ill health that were so severe that they felt and in fact were life-threatening. Okay, so I'm now going to talk about 3 things that I have done, 3 physical strategies that I have found helpful with insomnia. The first is drinking oral rehydration solution. So this is something that I talk about elsewhere on the channel in terms of videos about boosting blood volume, but basically they are very effective for that purpose, and I believe that there may be reasons in the illness whereby you get these small drops in blood volume, particularly at nighttime, or it becomes more apparent at nighttime, especially if you've overdone it during the day. And at those times, I think that ME patients can get more thirsty than usual because of the blood volume drop. And I have found absolutely indispensable is drinking oral rehydration solutions at nighttime in order to boost the blood volume. So if I'm finding that thirst level has gone up, I drink 300 millilitres of ORS, and after half an hour the thirst suddenly goes down and I can sleep much more easily. And one of the reasons that I used to have such problems in the nighttime was because of this kind of vicious cycle of drinking water, going to the toilet, drinking water, going to the toilet, and never quenching the thirst. So that's the first thing. It's been really, really helpful for me. And I have a blog where I talk more about that in the description box. The second thing that's been very helpful for sleeping has been practicing the Buteyko method. This is a method that increases carbon dioxide levels in the body, which paradoxically actually help with tissue oxygenation. I'm sure I'll do a series of videos on Buteyko at some point, but basically when I practice it consistently, I improve the blood perfusion in my body because CO2 is also a vasodilator. This relaxes my body, it gets the brain and muscles working better, and CO2 also calms down the nervous system. It has a sedating effect. And so I feel more centered, I feel more at ease, and I find that I sleep much more easily when I'm practicing that approach. And the third thing that I have found helpful for improving sleep has been osteopathic treatments. So I've done a lot of these over the last year. I've been interested in the lymphatic sort of sluggishness, the spinal issues that can happen in ME-CFS, and the ideas of Dr. Raymond Perrin. And I've actually done about 45 treatments in a year. I'm taking a break now. I think I've got to a pretty good place with these issues. What I've noticed is that as these treatments have improved my lymphatic flow, my sleep has also got better. And in the past, when I was lying there, not being able to fall asleep, one of the symptoms that I felt was this sort of real sluggishness or turgidness in the lymphatic fluids. And this has improved a lot as a result of these treatments, and I have also found that I've been able to sleep better and certainly go to sleep much more quickly and much more likely to sleep throughout the night. So those are 3 avenues that you might consider exploring. In terms of, the sort of trauma aspect of it, what I hope is that going forward, as I get better, right now I'm starting my hyperbaric oxygen treatment, can only really help with this issue. I hope that as I get better with sleep, I will trust the night more and more, that one day this will be something that I just won't think about. And that is what is normal. It's not thinking about sleep, it's not worrying about what's going to happen in the nighttime, it's none of those things. And so that's my ultimate hope, that when I recover or when I'm doing so much better, this will just be a non-issue. But I wanted to do this video in case there are other people who have had really difficult night times, who suffer in relation to this problem, just to speak to the problem. I look forward to, if you have strategies for either the mental or physical sides of this problem, please share those in the comments. And I also wanted to share ways that I have found that have improved my sleep. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one.